Mail rail. Let's take a ride.
Let's see if you can repeat that move. You will either A, show you the position to receive a train.
So here we are on the controller's platform. Now I'll read this to you. It says here, mail cars arrived here from the depot for repairs and maintenance, but once they left the electrified track in the tunnels, how did they move around, question mark. If you look up, you can see power cables that supply the mail cars with electricity from the raised yellow platform. A controller would move the trains using a lever. And if you look at this picture, you can see the power lines just up there. I suppose the electricity is cut off there. That's the final third rail there. And if we take a look behind us, this was the room where the mail trains were repaired. And here we've got a picture from Miles Willis, who's extensively photographed the mail train, from the tools left lying on the ground to the workers' lockers. The results give a glimpse into the atmosphere of the site once operations ceased. And there we go, we can see a redundant mail rail. And just on the tip of my finger there, you can see the control board from which this gentleman is operating the train. Okay, as we get ready to leave this very tight space and head off down the line, 70 foot deep and approximately 7 miles long, in front of me you can see the controller who's driving the train and his track circuit lights, which operated via another circuit board, which is just over there. And as they get the green to go, and if we just have a look over in that window there, we can see some of the pulleys, and note the bricks, LBC London bricks. With a horn as well, beep beep.
Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to Mann. Could I please advise that you try not to lean on the doors or the glass canopy windows, as this will trigger a security sensor that causes the train to stop.
As we disappear down into the tunnels, and we say goodbye to the engineering department. Now these trains are not electrified as such, they operate on batteries which are charged.
Hello and welcome to Mail Rail. You're about to explore some of London's hidden underground postal railway. I'm Andy, your guide today, and I'm joined by Ray Middlesworth. Hi Ray.
Hi. I worked here as an engineer for 27 years, keeping the trains running. And not just any old trains. This unique narrow gauge railway was designed to carry mail, not people. So if you're feeling a little cramped, that's why. And although we have a driver today, the original mail trains were driverless.
It was a huge network of automated electric trains running right under central London, carrying mail between main railway stations and sorting offices much faster than along the congested streets above our heads. And it's amazing to think construction of the railway began as far back as 1914, with the tunnels dug by hand. Work was put on hold during the First World War, but when the railway finally opened in 1927, it cut the journey time across London from a few hours to just 30 minutes.
It was an engineering marvel. Mail Rail ran almost non-stop, night and day, for over 75 years until 2003.
As we explore, we'll be going back in time to see tunnels, loading platforms, and a few surprises. We'll be at our first stop in a few minutes. Did you spot some sandbags just then?
No.
Ray, could you tell us about that? Sandbags on the line.
That's called the sand drag. That's a pile of sand on the track designed to stop runaway trains. If they run down that hill we've just come down, that will catch them.
The platform you're about to see looks much as it did on the day it shut down in 2003. Ray, can you describe it for us?
When Mail Rail was running, this platform would be a hive of activity. You'd see people playing darts between the trains arriving, guys conversing back and forth and wheeling work up and down. It was a noisy and lively place to work.
Ray's going to tell you more about life working on the railway as we take a trip down memory lane through the many decades of Mail Rail.
We're under Mount Pleasant sorting office, heading east to Whitechapel.
We're under that.
It was hard work down here, but we all thought we were part of something important. There was enormous team spirit. We seemed to get ourselves in the news a lot in the 90s. It didn't hurt that Bruce Willis made a film down here called Hudson Hawk. In the 80s, we had our 60th anniversary. Along with that, we had a new brand and finally some new trains. I'll tell you two things that sum up the 70s. Postcodes made life a lot easier, and strikes made life not so easy. The railway was bombed several times. This station suffered the most damage when it was hit in 1943. Amazingly, the railway was back up and running the very next day. That reflected how vital the railway had become.
tunnel off to the left leads to Liverpool Street Station, where mail was transferred to the main railway network. Further down that tunnel, it looks like a maintenance crew is checking the flood barriers.
This side's good. What's that like?
Big heavy steel doors that close it off.
During the railway's construction, 10 men scrambled to safety when the nearby River Fleet broke into where they were digging.
Enough.
The barriers here were installed later, after the war, but they'd never had to be used.
Ray, there's something else here that people might be interested in. Can you tell us about that?
When we move off just up ahead, look down towards the track. You might catch a glimpse of the train graveyard, where disused trains are stored. I must have worked on all of them at some time or other.
Don't worry, everybody. Just a power cut. Ray, can you explain?
Power cuts happen from time to time when the railway was operational. We could draw power from the next station along to keep everything running. And of course, us guys in the engineering teams always kept the trains and track in good order.
Okay, on we go. Let's go a bit further back, to the early days in the 1930s. Then there was no email, texting, or instant messaging. Whatever the message, it was sent through the post. So there was a lot of mail to move. Trainloads of mail arrived at every station, every few minutes, with less than 60 seconds to unload and reload. Let's follow a few of those letters. This is the Colonel. He's writing to the famous poet W.H. Auden at the GPO film unit. This is Kathleen. She's keeping in touch with her sweetheart in the Navy. And this is Mary. Her letter is very special because it's going to a princess.
Darling bird, that lady is keeping you away from me for far too long, and everyone says the war's coming. I do hope they're wrong.
Dear Mr. Porter, I feel compelled to express my admiration for your work on a recent film about the night mail postal train.
Dear Princess Elizabeth, I am sending you a birthday card because my birthday is on the same day. I hope you will enjoy living in Buckingham Palace. I wish my dad was a king like yours. Does he wear his crown all the time?
my love. Kisses, your sweetheart, Kathleen.
Letters all got delivered quickly and safely. And so did the other 4 million which travelled along mail rail each and every day.
You could say that mail rail was the beating heart of the British postal system.
As you notice, the screen has gone green. That's not because the camera is broken, it's because we're using night vision mode, which you can see much clearer. You can see every nut and bolt, every wire, every detail on the track. And if we look over our head, you can see some of the wires which disappear back up towards the main depot. And there we go, we've got a green light. Very green light.
I hope you've enjoyed your tour of London's hidden postal railway. It was unique, and I loved being part of the great team keeping the railway running.
We hope you'll enjoy exploring the rest of the exhibition just as much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
And you can see how popular this is. This is fully booked. We booked last July. Health and Safety, Factories Act 1961, a lovely poster, the Abrasive Wheels Regulations 1970. And here's some of the regulations for safe system of work of grindstones. I'm guessing that that's for grinding the wheels, the track, all sorts of things, and that's by the depot manager. And this is the control circuit board for the route. Must have been a service bay coming down here with the grill underneath, so you could get underneath the train and service it from underneath. I suppose that was brakes, that was wheels, that was bearings, electrics and anything else. Of course, changing brushes of electrical pickups would have been a regular occurrence, hence the pit in the floor. And if you note the track rails, there's one rail head there and there's one rail head there. And we'll just have a little look at the sleepers and everything. The sleepers would appear to be Scots pine, 6 or 7 inches wide, 3 inches deep by roughly 2'9" wide. And if you notice the turnouts as well, they're very typical to what you would see on a 4 foot or a 5 foot gauge, or even for that matter on a model railway. With the pigtails, which are identical but a much smaller version. Also, it has some metal sleepers in place, obviously because this probably would have got waterlogged at some point, so you would have needed a certain amount of drainage. And as we look up the track, we see another train which is getting ready to leave. Now I'm sat in one of the cabs of the actual locomotives with the ABS system, and we've got the throttle, and we've got power down and reverse, and we've got the various notches on there as well, and this must be some form of a handbrake. And this is a Dick Kerr system from 1927, so it's quite an old system. It's getting on for nearly 100 years old, this particular locomotive. And check out the old oak wooden seat, crosshead screws, and the old crosshatch flooring. And look at that, that's English oak. You can't beat that any better quality than that. Lovely large screws as well. And here's the route from Eastern District Office. The line goes past St Paul's, King Edward Building, and then it carries on to where we are, which is just here, Mount Pleasant, and then it carries on down Euston Road, along the Western District line, down to Oxford Street, takes a left at the parcels office, and then ends up where Paddington is, at Paddington Station, just off the Harrow Road. John Scott, one of the electrical engineers. Oh, a tools wagon or something by the look. Old tobacco tins. Some fixtures and fittings, electrical circuit testers, some lamps, Orfega, some grease, and some various other custom spanners, I'm guessing for maintaining some of the moving parts. And as you can see, Mrs. D is clearly enjoying herself endlessly. And here's some of the uniforms which were worn at the time. There we go. A blue jacket. And there's some of the other safety gear. There was the head protection that was worn. And just to point out, safety is no accident. And here's some of the artifacts left behind, including a clipper lighter, box of matches, mail rail pen, some biscuits, and 24-hour deodorant, which you probably need down here. And we've got some other stuff, some other electrical connectors, Loctite, a whole plethora of stuff. This is a pneumatic shuttlecock car from 1863, a survivor from the original pneumatic railway in 1863, in service until 1866. It then lay hidden and was once rediscovered in 1930. Check out those big holes in there. That looks like blowtorch damage, if you ask me. I don't think that's rust. Probably maybe something on there or whatever, or an effort to repair it. Beautiful engineering. And just a little thing there which says goods vans shall disappear forever from the streets of London, and that was printed by the Times in 1863. And this is one of the fleet of 90 four-wheel rail cars carried the mail in 1927 when the railway opened. The rigid nature of their design meant the wheels rubbed on the rails causing excessive wear. the suggested solution was to create longer trains with separate carriages, and probably I would have introduced some bogies in some of those wheel sets as well. And there's one of the power cables there, and we've got the number 7, and I suppose that's head and tail. Fascinating little machine. And this is a diagram of one of the pneumatic shuttlecock trains that ran on this line in 1862. And you can see the line disappearing in a tube on the surface of the ground, not yet buried. And you can also see the River Thames coming down there. And obviously this is the maintenance yard. Obviously some of the lifting gear once used, made in Loughborough, which would have been used to maintain some of the rail cars that ran on this line. 180 mail cars ran on the Post Office Railway over its working life. The engineers maintained them using the inspection pit, keeping the system running with remarkably few delays and derailments. Back in 1930, rail cars were just over 8 metres long, each with 4 containers holding 15 bags of letters or 6 bags of parcels. A replacement car design came during 1980. In 1987, to mark the railway's 60th anniversary, the system was renamed Mail Rail. There we can see another train departing, which returned in about 15 or 20 minutes. This is mailbag exchange apparatus. The trackside net received leather pouches containing mailbags from a moving travel post office. Trials of the bag exchange apparatus took place at Boxmoor in May 1938, used over 100 years. The final exchange took place at Penrith in October 1971, when I was just 1 year old. And there we have it. These were a familiar sight up until about 1975, when most of them were burnt and cut down. So I haven't had a chance to actually see one of these, although this is actually a reproduction. Let's move on. And if we head back out into the foyer, and then here we go. Circuit breakers such as this were once used to switch power on and off at Mount Pleasant. And this is one of the circuit breakers. And a very grand bit of engineering. I could say that definitely worked. And here's some of the telephones. There, well, you've got the numbers on there. 5268, car depot line 2. 2389, is that on there? No, that's not on there. And communications were vital to the running of the railway. From these phones in the car depot, workers could keep in touch with the rest of the network. I'm presuming toll-free. And we recently travelled over this, and a bit further back in the video, you can see through a little slit this. And this is where trains were stored in the sidings when not in use. Some are still there today, as we saw. You might be able to glimpse them during your ride, which we did. And in the foyer, in the reception room, if we just look down below our feet, you can see all the tracks and crossovers, turnouts are all still here. Looking a little bit worn and rusty, but undoubtedly still there. This is actually a fake floor, and we've still got a lot of the cables and everything in there. And there's one of the crossovers. If I can get down, you can see. And as another train arrives to take its next lot of passengers, we depart for greener lands.